Good morning, church. This is Kevin Duclairon again. It is 4:37 in the morning, and I have a ton of things to do today, but I have to, how do I say this? I have to keep you up to date with what's going on with me. Like the Bible says, tell it to the church. And I also have a bunch of stuff that I have to do, so this is how I'm choosing to do it. Talking through the process of dealing with what God is putting on my plate. You know, when we're born, we are born with an empty plate, but then God begins to add things for us to deal with. You know what I mean? God begins to add things for us to put up with and to deal with. And so as I go through this process, even now, I'm not considered the church leader in this country. I'm not considered anything. And so I want to deal with the issues that are put on my plate, and also talk through it. Talk through the process. Some people would be wearing a three-piece suit and have other authorities by them to deal with the issue and the response of what's going on. In my case, you know me, I put up videos, and I don't think you're getting these videos. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you're not. No more than the incident reports that I write here and that I've written to other apartment complexes where the reports have accomplished absolutely nothing. Not even a police report that leads to an investigation that leads to the arrest of these people in a third state. So evil has its protection. There is protection for the devil, and there is protection for those who serve the devil. Right now I'm in the kitchen. And I have to do the dishes, but I'm also going to be talking to you about what's going on. So the camera's going to be moving. I woke up this morning, and of course, as you know, I woke up this morning and I was assaulted again by Gabriel. And she came out in the middle of the night. She came in here and she does her normal thing, assault, sexual assault. And so I knew as soon as I woke up that I was hit again by this community and by these people. You have to understand, sexual assault is a sin. It is one of the most heinous things that a man could do to a woman. And the emphasis is always that it's the man that does it to the woman, or the man that does it to the boy, or the man that does it to the girl. But the problem is that sexual assault is beyond that. It's more than just an older man doing it to a younger woman, or it also involves older women doing it to younger men, starting at a young age, where she begins to molest and sexually abuse a child, perhaps. You have people in this country who babysit, and they get lonely, and they have Jonathan Zabel just came out, and he's very condescending. He's on he just cut me off. He's a representative of Gabriel Franklin and their group. But anyway, you have people in this country who babysit, and the babysitters are, so, they're in the back right now as I'm talking, and they're the people who have been hired by the U.S. government. They're the people who, I guess, beginning with Clinton, all the way back to Bill and Hillary. That group was formed when I was in Cal State University, Northridge. But anyway, these people, these older women, they come, and I guess out of loneliness, they start touching on the boys and touching on the children, or it's a community thing where women are being given permission to assault the youth of this nation, to assault, sort of like that one case where the teacher goes into the classroom, and you think that you're there to learn, but then the community urges the teacher to come out, and the community pressures the teacher to come out, and before you know it, and it's not usually the morality of the person that leads them to doing that sort of thing. It's usually the community. There's a community of sinners. There's a community of unbelievers. And it is, something's got to charge the people to come out that way. What is it? Apart from sin, what is it that's charging those people to come out that way? And it's usually the community of sinners, right? Sodom and Gomorrah didn't happen by itself overnight. Sort of like the woman Eve committing the sin that she committed, it was because evil was behind her that she did that, right? So you have that sin today being committed in this household, right? This house is completely defiled, all right? This house is defiled. Now, normally I sit here and I talk through the whole thing with the people that are in the back, but the people that are in the back are my enemies. The people that are in the back listening to me and have been listening to me since the day I was born, right? That includes my mother, Mary Ann, and my father, Michael, and John MacArthur, and Gabriel Franklin, and everybody else that's been involved in this, and now including the U.S. government and the Portland police. This is where it's at. These people have been in the back all of my life, and they have kept me isolated all of my life and all along. They have basically turned, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. There's a movie that was done by, what's his name, Jim Carrey, I think it was. And I think it's Truman. Truman is the movie, I believe, is what captures my entire life. That movie that was done by Jim Carrey, Truman. So I'm a Truman. So, you know, you can call me Kevin Ernst, Duclairon, where I live in this make-believe world, and that has been set up by Guy Franklin and his mother, right? And where they play the role of God and they play the role of control. They've been doing this since the 1970s, right? Because she wants a companion, she wants a sex companion, she wants somebody to act the part of being a poor pauper who needs help. You know, she's looking for one of those. She was looking for one of those children that would cling to her, and then she could come out on the child, right? And come out on its mother and treat them as if they were subordinates. But she herself didn't want to admit to or confess to the fact that she was a subordinate to African Americans in this country. She was a subordinate to Europeans in this country. She herself was a subordinate, and that's the reason why she's looking for another Haitian family to come into this country to play the role of subordinate to her. In other words, you Americans are supposed to be the superior ones over African Americans. African Americans would be over her. She would be over my mother and I. Right? My mother didn't tell me. That was the breakdown, or that was the setup. At least not back in the whenever I came here, because most people don't explain these things to children. They just expect you to figure it out. In other words, you know, we've been given an opportunity to come out of an impoverished country. Now you who have been given this great privilege by the American people, you need to submit. You need to submit to this woman and her family that way. And I guess a lot of that is going on in America today, where people are being subjected. Right? People are being subjugated. They're being subjected, however you say it, and they're being allowed to come into the country by the understanding that it's only if they fulfill the role of subjection. In other words, they can come and live, but they have to submit. They can come and live, but they have to be your subjugate. They have to stay under you. You know, they stay under you and your family, and they can't come up to the level of the European people and be equal to the European people. In other words, no going to Grace Community Church and graduating from the Master Seminary and be equal to the American preachers and American pastors and American elders. In other words, the Europeans are on the leading level. You fall behind them, and you do what they tell you to do, rather than you rise up to their level and lead alongside them. So there's a difference between leading alongside them as they lead. That's too far up. Right? That's too far up for me and my family. So we had to be cut down. MacArthur and this Haitian woman conspired together, and their desire, so this whole Constitution is a bunch of bullshit, right? It's a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of baloney, because this is what Guy Franklin and his mother had done, right? They brought me here for that very purpose, to come and serve under them and to come and serve their family, both sexually and also. I wasn't supposed to go to college. I wasn't supposed to have an education. You know, people who come here as subjugates and subordinates, and they're sneaked into the country, you know, they're not supposed to be educated. They're not supposed to have anything. I think I probably was sneaked into America. I don't know. right? Because I'm not sure, because this isn't a clean thing that's being done, right? It's all hush hush. It's behind closed doors, and the U.S. government took it, and when and probably Grace Community Church discovered it, and when they figured out who I was, well, it's like, oh, this guy's not a real American, and so we have to give it to him. Now, was it my own fault? No, I was a 9-year-old child. I don't control what the U.S. government does. I don't control what the Haitians did. And so I never knew how I got into the country, and I never knew whether or not, I was sneaked in or I was accepted. But when I became an American citizen, it seems like everything changed, right? Everything changed when MacArthur and his own family stepped in. And I guess when MacArthur and his own family stepped in, that's when they made the decision to do what? To come out. In other words, this guy owes us big because we turned him into an American, and he came here sneaking in, blah 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 blah, and so now he owes us, and we are, and we have this against him, and we have his real paperwork. He can't go nowhere. He can't do nothing. He owes us big. I think that's probably part of what my situation is, and don't even know it. And they're waiting until I turn 50. To come out, to give me my real paperwork. This woman they're preserving, right? This Haitian woman they're preserving, and they preserved her all the way, right? They protected her and preserved her sin, and looked after her as if her sexually assaulting me as a 9-year-old was okay. Her sexually assaulting me, and of course they would deny all of this, right? She took off my clothes at the age of 11 in front of Maxine. After that, everything she probably did to my body was not when I was awake, it was when I was asleep, right? Who brings a child into a foreign country to have sex with him, right? Who brings a child into a foreign country to have sex with him, and of course admits to it? Nobody does, right? Nobody does. So there was a double motive there, When I was brought here, there was a double motive, and the motive was not revealed until I guess I was old enough to, and it was never to my face. It was never directly to my face. Did Guy Franklin and his mother come out and say, we want you to serve us, and we want you to submit to us. She figured out that she can hear me and I can hear her, so she spoke to me through my head. And when I revealed to her that I was not going to serve her and submit to her, her response is basically what I'm dealing with now. Okay. So, she comes into the apartment. They put bed bugs inside of the fitted sheets. And they also take, I guess, some needle or something, and they leave sort of like a series of little cuts in the plastic that's on the bed, right? I want to show you something here. I think it doesn't want to come out now, but it came out 2 days ago. And I think I showed it to you in my past video. I want to show you something. When they come in here, this was the first warning, and I didn't know that this warning led to. See this here? Can you see this? You probably can't. Can you? This is how they warn. Okay. Can you see this here? If you can't see my hands, you see this? Look at this. Do you see this here? I don't think you can see it. Right? You probably cannot see this. You have to be able to see this. You see that right there? See this? Try to move the camera so that you can see it. Alright? Tell me you can see this. Okay. You can't see it because I can see my fingers. Okay, you see this? This is what they do with a needle. And the same thing you see here is what they do to my flesh. Okay? This morning I woke up and there was another one. Okay? There was another one. A little bit further down, this one is a new one. Alright? This one is a new one. Here's a slit here, and then another hole here. Alright? I don't think you can see the hole. If you could see my fingertip, you could see it. Alright? So there's a slit, it's like a bottom here, and then a vagina here. Okay, so there's two more holes. So from time to time she'll come and she'll she'll use me, and then that's how she judges. And of course, you know what she does to my hair. I think in the bathroom, I think that's probably the only hit that I wanted to make reference to. When you come into the kitchen, it's sometimes they'll put stuff in the bathroom sink so that it stays stopped up. In the kitchen, I think the only hit was the cabinet door. Right now, I have to put this down for a minute. And I have to put this down for a minute. Moved or finish cleaning up in here. Last night I had dinner, and I guess I was fast asleep because I was so tired. Anytime I'm too tired, it's usually because they're pumping up the apartment with sleeping gas so that she could come out. And I think what she does is they pump gas into the apartment and position my body and allow her to lay on the bed as if this was her apartment, and then either take pictures or videos so that she could show it to whomever she needs to or she wants to. So they allow her to play the role that she wanted to play, sleeping with me, and they allow her to position herself that way. But that's not how it is. This woman is in this world by herself doing this. I have nothing to do with it. That's why I did this, because I had nothing to do with what this woman was doing. I don't know who she is, you understand? I've been dealing with this woman since the day I was born, and to this day, I do not know who this Haitian woman is, this Gabriel Franklin. She's a sex offender, and she's a little old woman, but she knows, she's like your queen, but she knows exactly what she's doing. She's not stupid. So she's part of this world series where they find women that look just like her, and they use those women. So she's a part of all of that. They find women that has the same resemblance as her, and they use the woman. And if you look, this is how I've had to barricade the apartment, right? I put this up here. Why am I showing it to you? Because they go through all of that. See, when you open the door, right, you're supposed to hear all of that noise, but right, you can't buy another lock and put it here. Management says, no putting up locks here, right? My response to the Klan is pizza. My response to the shit is food. So you're not. This isn't traditional American response to leadership, to trespassing. This isn't American response to anything that is done against the church and its ministries. You understand? And so it's not a matter of, this is so unprofessional, right? This is so unprofessionally done, or how this thing is being done here against me. Another thing is, apart from what she did last night, again, coming in here, trespassing is a crime. The woman shouldn't have been in here. Sexual assault is a crime. She shouldn't have been allowed in here. But they're not looking at sexual assault. They're looking at it as if this is what she was due. Because of her great sacrifice of sending for a 9-year-old child, this is what she was due. And therefore, I'm not in the right in saying that I don't want this Haitian woman in the apartment. I'm in the wrong because she did me a favor. She pulled me out, and am I now supposed to live the rest of my life and push away my faith and push away what I've become, and ignore the fact that the government separated us, right? For 5 years, or for more than 5 years, I mean, all the time that I thought we were separated for good, the government lied, and the government did not protect me as a child, but they opened the door for this woman to come and in other words, I was the food. Instead of her being a mature woman and submitting to a man and going and yielding to a man and falling under a man and allowing a man to lead her as a husband would lead a wife, she comes and prays after me. So instead of her submitting to Tony Gaston, she turns on Tony Gaston for whatever purpose or reason, and Tony is end up killed, or that's what she says, but I don't know the truth. Right, and instead of one of the European women just came out, really low. So, so instead of submitting to Tony, she lies, and I was at the group home at the time. She lies and she says that Tony's been killed, and then after that, Jean-Marie's been killed, and all of that was an incentive for me to come back. Oh, so she's killing, in words, she's killing all the men in her family, so that I could have, I guess, feelings and emotions toward her. This is the crippling evil of an old Haitian woman. You think these people are just into voodoo, but these people are more than just into voodoo. These people are into slavery. These people are into sexual immorality. These people are into rape. These, beginning with the older generation. And so if it's in the old women, how much more is it in the old men, what these people are doing down there in that, that forbidden country or that evil island? We all know Haiti as an island filled with demons and evil spirits and people doing all sorts of wicked things. Voodoo dolls and the whole bit. The whole voodoo doll is you take a needle and you stick it to the voodoo doll. And I just learned it's not the voodoo doll. It's your flesh. It's your own flesh that these people are taking and they're poking. It's not the voodoo doll that they poke. No, it's your flesh that they poke and they stick a needle in it to give you pain. When they are under the protection of this unbelievable gay clan U.S. government, in whom slavery has been passed on from generation to generation, right? So you're not dealing, I'm not dealing here, I gotta plug this in. You're not dealing here with a situation that is clean. This is an unclean situation. This is an unclean situation with unclean people. You're not dealing with a godly woman here, old woman who's influenced by God. In all the years that I've known this woman, not once has she ever prayed a prayer for my soul. Not once has this old woman ever, petitioned God to save me from sin. They've used homosexuality from the very beginning. She herself submitted. Homosexuality is the sin that God has turned man over to because of the fact that they wouldn't worship him as God. Well, she's of the Spirit. And I think that's partly why she is the way she is toward me. There's two sides. There's a Dr. Jekyll and a Mr. Hyde. There's the one side, the feminine side, that says, she wants to be a mother and she wants to be a wife and she wants to be all of that. But there's another side that says she wants to submit to women, or she wants women to submit to her. So there's something going on between her and women, or her and my own mother, or the woman who claims to have been my mother, that is unnatural, and that's not right. I don't know what that relationship is. If it's a subjection relationship, or if it's a sexual relationship. I don't think it's sexual. I think the sex was supposed to be taken out on me. The sin was supposed to be taken out on me. The crime was supposed to be committed, and I was supposed to submit to all of that, and I didn't. And because I didn't submit, this is why, again, I'm here discussing it with you Americans and you church people, those of you who are Christians and who know that Christianity does not condone homosexuality, who does not condone sexual immorality between men and women, the young and the old. What do you do with a woman who's been doing this all the days of her life, and she says, "Oh, I took the hit." She crosses over into the community, what they call community, right? What exactly is community? When did this terminology begin to be used by the gay community, right? When did this gay community begin to use this terminology, that is the community, to identify or to describe homosexuals? So instead of calling them the world, the Bible says, "Do not love the world nor the things in the world," right? What makes up the world? People like Gabriel Franklin, right? The police department that you can't call and make a report to. Yesterday, after she assaulted me, I wrote an incident report. Remember, I gave you that video, right? So I wrote an incident report, and these really don't do anything, right? I did this with West Shore Apartments. Every single time I was hit, to the point where I waited until the end of the week to give it to the management. Here, I've only done it maybe about 15, 20 times, maybe even less, right, in the course of 6 months, because of how many times this woman has frequently come in and out. But we have to remember she's an old woman and she's not by herself. And so she has her son, who, through the community, there are whites from your own race that are representing this man named Guy Franklin. There are whites who come with violence in their heart. Yesterday I was given a job at Labor Ready, right? And when I went there the first time, the guy that was supposed to be managing the crew is a Gabriel Franklin, and of course he doesn't show up, and I had to go to 24 hours to use the toilet. Leaving 24 hours, when I got there was nobody there except for one guy that they had just hired, and I think he might have been representing either Jean-Claude Duvalier or one of those other Haitian leaders, but he came in out of the Spanish community. Jonathan just came out again. Anyway, when I get there, he wasn't. The management itself wasn't there, and everywhere that they've put me to work, it's usually a setup with Guy Franklin's, and it's for a hit, and it's for a hit. And right before I had gone to, gone to Beaverton to work for this company, right, this roofing company, and we only got halfway through, right? Any dealings with Gabriel Franklin, it's never all the way through, it's always half, right? It's only a portion. You only get to stay there for a portion of time. In other words, if I was supposed to get a lease here for a year, they'll give it to me for 6 months rather than the whole year. If I was supposed to get $34 for 4 hours, which is the minimum, they'll only give it to me. Instead of giving me the 4 hours, they'll give it to me for 2 hours, and somehow through the community she gets the other 2 hours. And all of the people that I come into contact with whether it be Labor Ready or a job that I'm doing for Labor Ready, the government and the gay community has set it up so that they're all representing the main person running the show, or the second person in command is a Gabriel Franklin. And the third person that comes after that is a Guy Franklin, and the fourth person that comes after that is a Kevin Duclairon. So they have it. So they took what was in Haiti, brought it into the U.S. They took what was in the U.S. and brought it into the into the church, Grace Community Church, because on Grace Community Church property, it was John MacArthur, who was Gabriel Franklin, it was Lance Quinn, and then it was Jerry Ragg, and then Mark Rodriguez, and those people. If I had, back then, when I was in college, if I had learned to read what their community was communicating, it was the same setup. It was Gabriel and whoever was above Gabriel, which was, I think, Julia. Julia was the old, either, I think, mulatto woman who owned the house, and then. And I guess she came from the French. I don't know, but it came out of the 70s. The same setup that they had put her in, now they've put Guy Franklin in, and now they've put me in, and that's where you Americans come in. So you Americans are a part of this whole setup, where right above me is either a Guy Franklin or right above me is a Gabriel Franklin. In terms of, I was serving under Mark Rodriguez, or I was serving under Guy Franklin, or that's how they have it set up. I'm not in agreement with that, because I've been at odds end against Guy Franklin and against Gabriel Franklin since the day I walked into this continent. And when I told the U.S. government that I wanted nothing to do with their family continued to, instead of the government taking me in a different direction where I had nothing to do with them, they took me in a direction where they would be in the background, and through the community they would be hitting me, and the same abuse and the same violence that was in Guy Franklin when I was a 9-year-old is the same violence that has remained in him through homosexual men, and homosexuals assuming the position homosexuals in this country assuming the position of looking like Guy Franklin, being Guy Franklin, homosexuals who from the day that I was born have plagued me, and I didn't know the power, that the demonic power that was in these people, the evil power that is in these people to take a person's position, take a person's information and pretend to be that person. So you're in a workplace and you're no longer dealing with a manager. You're in a workplace and you're no longer dealing with a manager. You're no longer now you're dealing with the issue that you had back in your country back in the 70s. Because what these people do is they take all of your information from the 70s, all of your information, and I'm sure they do it to the African Americans more than they do it to me, but all of back to slavery days, they take all of your information all the way back. They bring the information into their establishments and they use the information to put you under whoever it is that you were under back then, back in your own country. And what they do is they take that information and and they subdue you, they subject you, and they use it to control you, and they use it to manipulate you, and they use it to hurt you. Yesterday I met a man. This is where I was going. Yesterday I met a man. So after going to Beaverton, dealing with the fact that the company was not there, but they left behind one person, and I think they did it just to show me that, oh, I wasn't on time, right? I came 10 minutes late, or I came 5 minutes late, and I was supposed to be there exactly at 6:30. And I had told the guy when I first started, because of the bus system and the train, I'm not sure if I'll make it there exactly at 6:30. But anyway, when I got there, nobody was there except for that one guy that was newly hired. So I spoke to him briefly. I don't know who he was, but the community had come out for him last week. And if I read it right, basically he was the one that had escorted me back to Portland through the community. And this was on Friday when they signed me out without allowing me to work because they had canceled I guess they had canceled the contract. And he was the one person who was on the train with me at the time that basically walked me back into Portland. And so he was either on my side or against, I'm not exactly sure, but he was the one that was there on Friday. And coming back yesterday, Monday, that was again the person that welcomed me back. Not welcomed me, but who was there at the site because we had separated, right? And this is after I had met with Officer Harris, whom I had met on, I think it's, what was that street? On, Harris is the police officer who I ran into on my way to Beaverton. And I wasn't rapping and raving. I had completed the video, the one where I was walking around for about 10 minutes. And I ran into Harris, and he was the third officer that I've dealt with concerning this situation since I've been living here. The third officer. They told me you only get 3 officers, and after that you're housed. You gotta go. The first officer was Paul Mitter. The second officer was Nicole Miller. The first officer was Paul Mitter, right? And he didn't do anything about it. And this was the case number. And the second officer was Nicole Miller, right? And she didn't even write the case down because it's a continuation of that one. And the third one is Harris, right? Harris was the officer that I ran into yesterday. And I told him, what is your police department doing about this woman trespassing, sexually assaulting, coming in at all hours of the night? I'm being drugged, I'm being cut, I'm being pierced. And he basically says, well, in anger, he basically says, we already talked to you about this, and we've already addressed it. We're not going to do anything. In other words, I think what the government is communicating to me, and this is before I went to Beaverton, what the government is saying here is, don't you get it? We're not going to protect you. Don't you get it? We're not going to do anything to deliver you from what we're allowing her to do against you. Don't you get it? We're hitting you. We're not treating you with respect, like it says in the old Constitution, right? We, the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice. We're not going to give you no justice. Ensure domestic tranquility. There's not going to be no tranquility as a domestic man. Provide for the common defense. We're not going to defend you. Promote the general welfare and secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our posterity do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. And this is coming out of the history, probably the History Channel. But the bottom line is that we're not going to do that for you. Understand? And it's like we're hitting you, we're being disrespectful toward you. And this is coming out of where? Mark Rodriguez, who went to the Master's College, Master's Seminary, right? Coming out of Grace Community Church, coming out of Barack Obama, coming out of the administration. This is what they're saying here is, look, it don't matter how many times you complain, how many times you put up videos, how many times you write these incident reports, right? You need to go because you're not an exception. In other words, you're no different than these niggers. You're no different than these, black homosexuals who come here to lust after the flesh of European men, right? And so I think the underlying message is you're not going to be protected. The underlying message is the Constitution is not going to be applied. The underlying message of this American continent and these would-be presidents is when we come out as the Klan or when we come out as gays and when we come out like that, that means you get no protection. The naturalization certificate cannot protect you. And so Harris's attitude was basically, we've already dealt with you. We don't want anything to do with you now. I'm out of here. I'm not taking a police report. That's not my effing job. He didn't say that, effing job, but that was the attitude implied. And it's not just him. It's every single one of these people who call themselves police officers. And yesterday I was sitting here, and while we're on that note, I went to Bank of America after I had, after the day was over. So that was my first dealing with Harris. Yesterday, I began the day dealing with Harris, which is the Portland Police, and I ended the day dealing with the Portland Police through Bank of America, okay? And through Bank of America, and this is really bizarre, right? How I'm dealing with the police department of this country. And last night, my conclusion was that whenever I think of police, I think of enemy. Whenever I think of police, I think of the KKK. Whenever I think of the police, I think of the people who have murdered and destroyed Jesus Christ, because they're like the Roman Empire to me. Whenever I think of police, I don't think of to protect and to serve. I think of the blacks that have been shot in their face, the blacks who have been murdered in this American continent. I think of Rodney King, who's been beaten senselessly. Whenever I think, that was Jonathan Zabel in the background on an intercom, on the police intercom. Whenever I think of the police, I don't think of safety. I think of death and white men wearing black outfits and revolvers to shoot and kill you niggers, to shoot and kill you so-called Christians, to send a boy inside of a church and to boom, 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 shoot and kill 9 African people. Whenever I think of police, in other words, I don't think, whenever I think of police, I think of the Klan exchanging the white sheets for uniform, right? And instead of the rope, they get the gun. Instead of them, running around and asking if I to join them, they basically get a badge that says you're allowed because you're the level, you're the government, So anyway, I left I left Beaverton after talking to the man, came back to Portland, went to Labor Ready. I was assigned a new job, went to the job, and it was that the new job was. And what they told me was that somebody was supposed to be there at 5:30, and I don't think I was told the truth. In all honesty, I don't think I was told the truth. I'm not exactly sure why, but I walked away feeling like I wasn't told the truth. I don't know why I feel that way. I'm not saying that I wasn't. I just feel that I wasn't told the truth for some reason or another. And I'm not calling my manager a liar. I'm not calling anybody a liar. I just feel that the man that I dealt with, there were, as soon as I walked in, boom, I was hit, because of the fact that I was late. And I'm like, well, I just got off another, somebody was supposed to be there at 5:30, I was told. But I have a feeling that somebody was there at 5:30, but he was not addressing his issue, but he was addressing my issue at the fact that I was late for the Beaverton job, because I stopped by 24 hours to use the bathroom, and I was supposed to be there at 6:30. When I had gotten there to the Beaverton job, there was a man driving around in a red truck with a telephone looking at me, and I think that might have been the real I guess his name was Ulysses. I guess that was supposed to be the real guy, but instead they gave me a Spanish guy to deal with, right? A Spanish Mark. Remember, Mark is the second in command, not the first. And the real guy that was in command was an English guy, but they passed it on to the Spanish guy to play the role of being one, when in reality he was two, and I was supposed to be three. So it's all of the lying and the deceiving that's going on in the background. In other words, Mark Rodriguez don't lead Grace Community Church. It was John MacArthur. And he's second or whatever. But anyway, so a lot of this information that I'm giving you probably doesn't make any sense. But you'd have to play it repeatedly to kind of catch a glimpse of what, because I go into tangents. And because there's the background information that I'm giving you as a church or as a public explains why this is continuing and how, when it leaves the apartment here, it goes to the job. It goes to the church. It goes to your establishment. It goes to your Starbucks coffee house, right? And it goes to your place of work. It goes to your wherever I come into contact. Know that this setup that I'm talking about right now, know that this situation I'm talking about is there already. Anywhere you ever see me in this continent, this is the situation that I'm dealing with. So I come to your church on Sunday morning, it's already on your property because it's the government's doing. Right? So anyway, I leave Beaverton. I go to this new job, and when I'm there, it's again the same setup, right? Because it's the government that does it. It's the Guy Franklin, the Gabriel Franklin, and of course this time, and the Jews, right? Somehow or another, they have managed to come out and to come up into the situation, and they're dealing with the issue. They're dealing with the issue, right? No one's touched me. No one's done anything to me. But it's always there lingering somewhere in the background in the establishment. Before I even got onto the establishment, there was an African woman there. There was a Gabriel Franklin. On my way back to Beaverton, I had some an African and a Spanish, and then there was a third African woman there who came out. 3 of them came out, and they wouldn't stop coming out. They wouldn't stop insulting me. And I had to come out and basically call them ugly and call them names and to, in a form of a rebuttal against them because of the fact that they wouldn't stop insulting me. They knew as soon as I got on the train, they were giving it to me. As soon as I got on the train, when I was on the bus, the number 48, they were giving it to me through gay white males, right? And as soon as I got on the train, they switched it to African females. And it's almost like they were trying to, agitate me to start a fight, because that's how they had maced me on bus 147 in Seattle, Washington. It was the African women who did it. Now they had a Spanish woman and an African woman talking, but they weren't talking together. They were talking at me and against me. And so I had to come out and deal with them in the flesh. So I dealt with them. This was right before I went back to deal with Labor Ready, and before they gave me this new assignment. So when I get into the assignment, I was supposed to be there. I guess whoever Labor Ready was supposed to send, they were supposed to be there by 5:30. They didn't show up, but I don't think that's the real case. I think there was a lie. There's a lie there. There's a lie there somewhere. I don't know where, but I think Labor Ready might have sent somebody, and instead, I think they might have sent somebody at 5:30 and covered themselves, but I was told differently so that they could address the issue of my lateness. So I'm not altogether there sure what happened, but in any case, I'm trying to get to the point here. In any case, I get there and I start working with 3 men, and then a 4th guy doesn't come in until like an hour later. But I think that guy might have been there before I even was, because he was a Guy Franklin. And when he came, he was pissed. And when he came, he was angry. And when he came, he was a hit. And right then and there, we had it out in the establishment. And the guy that I was supposed to report to, we had it out. Racism came out of me, hate came out of me, everything that you would not want to bring out of an employee came out of me right then and there. And so did the workers of Starbucks. Right? They came out too. And then, of course, they put me in my place and reminded me of Mary Ann, my mother, being under Gabriel. And, of course, they had a girl who was under the Mary Ann come out against me, and I have to come out against. This is what I'm trying to warn you, Americans, is that wherever you find me, this is a situation that is set up, and I'm trying to prevent your blood from being spilled. And what I'm trying to tell you is, do not take part in this situation. Do not take part in this situation, this whole community thing. Do not take this position with this family, this Haitian family, this gay government, this Klan government, in so-called dealing with the issue of subordination. Do not, this is what I'm getting at, do not join hands with Grace Community Church, Mark Rodriguez, Guy Franklin, John MacArthur, all of those people. Do not do it. You are putting yourself in jeopardy of getting hit, of getting hurt, of getting killed, of being fired from your job, ousted out of your apartment complex, and all of the evil things. Do not do it. Do not get involved with those people. Do not allow them to bring you into the situation, because it is not your business. It is not your business. Don't assume the position. All of you white boys who want to be Guy Franklins, so you have something on me and you can hit me, and you're getting the assurance from other white people who are so-called supposedly on the U.S. government. They're the U.S. government, and so therefore we're the government and we could do whatever. No, because the government is supposed to represent God. And God is not the one who is trying to subordinate me. You see, the U.S. government is supposed to represent God. The Word of God says, and I'm going to read this to you out of the scriptures this morning, Romans 13. Romans 13 says this, right? Romans 13, God is not here trying to subordinate us, right? The love of Christ. God demonstrated his own love toward us, and now while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. So God is not here trying to subordinate me. God is not the one who's trying to force me into subjugation to a Haitian woman who wants to be exalted, who wants to be elevated, who wants to be put first. The Bible tells us, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And so God wants to be first. This woman wants to be first. She wants to be the one in charge. She wants to come back. The U.S. government had removed her for child abuse, had removed her son for child abuse. Why would she want to come back now? And why would she want sex? Where is her husband? She doesn't want a husband. She doesn't want to submit to a husband. She doesn't want to yield to a husband's love. She was married to Andre Joseph. Now where is Andre Joseph? He's disappeared, right? There is no Andre Joseph. She's disappeared. And she's committing adultery with my sleeping body, right? She's committing adultery and immorality with my sleeping body under the protection of the government. So, the Word of God says here that let every person be in subjection to the governing authorities, right? As long as the governing authorities knows who's the boss of them, and that is God Almighty. It says, for there is no authority except from God, and those which exist are established by God. Therefore, he who resists authority has opposed the ordinance of God, and they who have opposed will receive condemnation upon themselves, right? These are supposed to be people of authority who are representing God and who are established by God. Then why is it that they're not doing their job in arresting a sexual offender, but instead protecting the sexual offender? Right? This John MacArthur is not supposed to be asking me for subjugation indirectly through the community. This Haitian woman is not supposed to be asking me for subjugation through the gay community, and then coming in my home and sexually assaulting me, and then for this to follow me from job to job, establishment to establishment, and everybody that I come into contact with. Where this becomes a stalking thing, right? And then you go to the courthouse to get a stalking order, and you can't get one. You go to the courthouse to get what is it called? A restraining order. No stalking, no restraining order, none of these things, right? Because the judges in all 3 states in the West Coast. So what was in New York State has now ravished the West Coast. What was in Haiti went into New York. What was in New York came into the West Coast. And now any part of the West Coast, this is a situation, and you have something to do with it. You check my employers, you check where I've lived, all the homeless communities I've been involved, they've all have Gabriel Franklins, Guy Franklins, and John MacArthur's, and these people who will not stop chasing after me. Why? Because the U.S. government, right, these are the 2 representatives, the U.S. government, what is the U.S. government doing? Right? The U.S. government is protecting these people in the evil that they're doing. This is the government that's protecting the whole thing, right? This is the government that's protecting the whole thing that's coming out of these people. When we switch from the Constitution to the queers, right? This is what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a Constitution that's being violated by queer people, and we have a queer people violating the Word of God, right? 3 forms of authorities, right? God, who leads the church, the government and its constitution who leads the nation, and the queer community who is also the clan community who is judging me. These are the judges. But these people are being protected by who? By them. But they have these people here, right, under their control, and who is also part of the government, the police department. And they get their orders from them, and they are protecting them. And this is who Gabriel Franklin and Guy Franklin are under, as well as the government and the police department, right? I come with the word of God. And the word of God says what? We're supposed to submit and subject to what? To the government, but not the evils of the government, not the wickedness of the government, because what does the word of God say? Right? The word of God say, for rulers are not a cause for fear, but for good behavior. So if my good behavior in preaching the word of God, and my good behavior in praying for the people's salvation, and my good behavior in whatever it is that I'm doing is being rejected, resisted, and oppressed and suppressed by Gabriel and her family because they don't want me to be a minister, by Guy Franklin and his family because he doesn't want me to subject myself to the church, and the gay community who wants me to live under European males that are gay and that are clan and that are supposed to be, and of course they don't want me marrying a Christian woman, regardless of whether she's white or not. They don't want me marrying a Christian woman. They want me where? They want me under their authority. They want me under them as white men, and they want me to subject myself to whoever the Negro woman is that they choose, right? And 99% of the time, it's a Gabriel Franklin. Right? And it all goes back to Guy and Gabriel, because Guy and Gabriel have subjected themselves. Now, where do you come in? You come in the door, through the door that they open, and the door that they allow to be open, and the door that they ignore that is open. They ignore it, they allow it, and they open it. And when they open it, you're supposed to do what? Choose one of them in order to choose an African woman, right? They're shit. And the African woman that they choose is Gabriel Franklin. And thus, therefore, we concur, she's allowed to come in here and do all of that under their protection and authority. Under their protection and authority. Under their protection and authority. Right? So then, where is the church of God? These people have assimilated themselves so far and so deep into these congregations, you can't even tell the difference between who is straight and who is gay. Who is submitting to who? Who is the body of Christ and who is the gay man? Who is the body of Christ and who is the Klansman? Who is the body of Christ and who is the government representative? And so these relationships are not clean. It's one that subjects himself to another, right? It's the weaker that subjects himself to the stronger. So there's something going on here. All of that I just explained is coming out of, look at these levels of authority that I'm dealing with, right? And don't think they're not involved because they're not here in uniform. They're in the background. Don't think that they're not involved because they're not there for you to see, right? They're in the background. And don't think that they're not there. They're in the background. And this is the one position in the front, but there is another position. You know what that other position is, right? You know what that other position is. It's the hat that they wear, right? The hat that they wear. And so, all of that to say is that if you look like a Guy Franklin or a Gabriel Franklin, do everything that you can not to fall in line. Do everything that you can to stay out of this situation so that I don't end up getting my life shortened and you don't end up getting hit, right? Yesterday when I met the man, he told me his name was Nick. No, Nick was not his name. Nick was his position. We were sent to move cabinets out of a truck. The cabinets were removed, but we were not told that there was going to be using machines. And of course, I got nicked as a result of using the machine. Even after I've told them, you need to call this in and tell them that we're using machines. So in case something happens, right? We need to let them know that. We need to let Labor Ready know. I didn't say anything to them when I came in. He had left the job and went somewhere, and I went to, I went, got my check, and both of my checks, they're not big checks, just little ones. The one for 2 hours for showing up, and then the other one for the 6 hours that I had worked, helping these people move and clean and sweep and whatever it is. That is not my life career, but that's what I'm doing today.
I've been out of work for decades, right? Because these people said no. I didn't subject myself. I didn't submit. So internationals coming into this country, this is what you're up against. These are the representatives who tells you the Constitution protect you. The Constitution does not protect you. These are the people that enforces the judgment of these people. See, it's like this. When you walk through the door, it's the government. This is the door you walk in. This is the door that hits you. This is the hit, right? And then this is I guess this is the coup, right? They're the hit. This is the wait, it's the other way. I think it's probably this way. I think it's this way now. All right? I think it's this way. I think it's this way. All right? Here's the coup. That's the hit. This is the klux. This is where you get the African woman, and then this is the Klan, right? So this is the coup. This is the klux. This is the Klan. This is the hit. They're the government now, right, over the American continent. This is the klux. Kevin Lady use sex, right? And it's not directly the males, but it's who? It's the African female, which is Gabrielle Franklin, and this is the Klan, and they're the hit, right? They're the ones who put you in jail when you don't submit to the sex, to the African women. They're the hit who put you in jail when you call it in. They're the hit when you when you don't want to submit. They're the ones who come who gas your apartment. They're the ones who electrocute you and cut you and allow you to be hurt by the members of your family, right? They're the hit, and this is the world order, right, that I'm dealing with, and this is my protection, and this is all that I have. And behind this is supposed to be the church, right? This is Imago Dei. When I went to them 3 or 4 years ago, and I told them my situation, guess who was on their property on the elder board waiting for me? Guy Franklin, in the form of Barack Obama, the president of this country, right? This guy right here, through the community, through their community, right? On this property. And here I am thinking, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. I was homeless. This president, as soon as he got in, bam! Why? Because he's a Gabrielle Franklin representative. So from as soon as you go through the door of this American continent to come here, it's a hit. And then after that, it's this hit. And it's all based on subjugation. It's not just the sex, it's the subjugation. The fact that you're being reduced, and the fact that you don't come up to the European level. The fact that you don't identify with their race as the lead. You don't take the lead. And they tell you on intercoms, you're not the lead. They tell you on intercoms, and they're talking from their point of view. But we're supposed to be not the community. We're supposed to be the church. We're supposed to be the body of Christ. The people who love Jesus. The people who have been saved out of their world system. Right? The church have God's instructions, right? Talking to his children. This is the kingdom of darkness right here. This is the kingdom of the Antichrist right here. And this is who these people are supposed to be according to the scriptures, right? Because they're not under God. They're not under Christ. And being under God meaning that they're filled with the Holy Spirit. Not just that they go to church on Sunday and they're the members of a congregation. No, the Spirit of God has to abide in them for them to be the church of God. That means Jews and Greeks. That means the world and the church. And so here I am fighting this system here. This is the system that Gabrielle Franklin is under. And they removed me out from under the elder board of Grace Community Church and the teaching and the exposition of the Word of God to deal with what? To deal with this. But even, what have I been disclosing to you? That even among them, it's when they come into here and you don't know who they are. It's when they join the church and they remain who they are in their context without you knowing. It's when they come in and assimilate with the body of Christ. And sometimes they come directly and sometimes they come indirectly using people that looks like them. And when you don't know the system and the order of things outside of the church, right? When you don't know the order of things outside of the church, you might mistake them to be the church. You might mistake them to be the real elder board. You might mistake them to be the real brethren, when in reality, this is what you're dealing with. So they had to separate the two, right? Because this is what I wasn't seeing when I was on Grace Community Church property. So they had to separate the two. And in this is what? Gabrielle and Guy Franklin, right? Under who? Under the government, under the gay clan, under the gay Klan. So there's more to them. So there's more to just two gay guys, setting off to get married, right? And coming out of the closet. There's more than just what you're seeing right now, them getting married. There's more to it than that. There's more than just two people in love with each other, and they're in love with each other's assholes, and in love with each other's dirty cocks or each other's HIV. We're so in love with each other's sickness and diseases, right? I just love the stench and the smell of your body, of your derriere. I don't think that's what's going on. I think what's going on is one, taking control. I mean, it's on the European side. If you don't know Europeans and you don't know what they became in America, and you don't understand that it's not just one nation under God, it's all the nations under God on the American continent. It's all the nations under God on the American continent. I've said a lot this morning, and it's already been an hour, and I think I've made my point, right, in addressing the fact that, they've come in here, how this has followed me from here to Beaverton, and back to Portland, into the job, and into the job site, and then back again into the place of employment. And then, of course, after I get my check, I have to go cash the check. And when I get there, guess what's waiting for me? Behind a teller line. Guy Franklin in the form of a white woman. The president in the form of a white woman who will deposit the money, but then hesitate before giving me the change. I don't know how many times these people have done that. Or ask them for a statement, and they won't give me the statement. And it's like, why won't you give me the statement? I need a monthly statement to keep track of my I need a monthly statement to keep track of my of how I'm spending the money, right? Because I want to make sure that all my bills are paid. I mean, it's like, or they won't give you the change back, right? They'll shorten you in the amount of money you're supposed to get. They'll send you the PIN number, right, for the debit card that replaced the last debit card that was stolen. Or I don't know how many of these I've gotten this year. Just this year alone, I've had 4 or 5, 6 different debit cards, right? And so this is after dealing with yesterday morning and all the run-ins with the different representatives of these people. And mind you, the African American community has to subject themselves to this too. So anyway, long story short, when I get to the bank, of course they do give me my money, but it's the whole idea of them resisting or shortening, and they're doing it on purpose to see my response, to get under my skin, to piss me off. I don't think they want to pocket the money. I think they just want to sort of like, poke me. That's just another poke, to piss me off. And I'm thinking, and this is Guy and Gabriel, right? This is through the community, right? Under what? Under this system. Under this system. And under this system, these people have destroyed how many different nations? Wherever you see LGBT, it's them right here. It's the government. It's the same-sex people, and it's the police department. And if it's not police, it's the army. And if it's not the army, it's the Air Force, or it's the submarines, or it's all of those people. They come in sheep's clothing, but they are ravenous wolves. Here's the pin. Where's the card? August 30th, I ordered it. And where is it now, right? It's today is September 15th, right? I wrote it down. I said, what? September, still no card. What happened to the card? Bank of America won't send the card anymore. Why? Right? So this is after dealing with her at home, after dealing with her and her son at work, wherever I'm working at, and now when the check is finally handed to me, I have to go to the bank, and even then there's a struggle, right, to give me my complete amount, right? And so it's just like, how is it that this is what America has become in the 21st? After all the marching of Martin Luther King, after all the fighting of Metzger Ever, I think his name was, and all the fighting of Malcolm X, after all the civil rights that have been passed, after all of the struggles of the 60s, the 70s, We are still dealing with this nonsense in the 21st century. I was a baby when this stuff was going on. I wasn't even born in the 60s. Here I am 44, and this is what we're dealing with in the 21st century. And you wonder why I stand out there and preach for an hour and a half, right? On the day that I preach that message on the sower and the seed, and the end result of it is that if you have the soil of your heart without faith, then you know you're not the good soil, right? You're not the good soil, and therefore your heart will never be receptive. So if you're in the world, and this is what, if you're in the world and this is what the government is doing, making sure you don't get your bank cards, making sure that they crack again your it's not visible, but it's cracked. They crack your glasses. They give you sicknesses and diseases, right? Sicknesses and diseases. They withhold from you fellowship, right? I mean, if this is what they're doing to you, and this is all that we have to fight with them, right? To fight against them. Our words, the promises of God. This is all. Do we believe this? This is the armor, right? I'm going to finish with this. Ephesians 6, and then I'm going to turn off this thing, because there's got to be a point where you stop talking. But I want to read you this, Christians, is that what can we put up against this defense here? What is our defense, right? If this is what they're giving to us, what is our defense against this unbelieving government, against this gay clan, right? If this is our defense, remember, they're the ones who went out there and shot and killed those people, right? Right? They went and shot and killed those people. Now, some people are going to stand against me, but this is what they're doing, right? This is what they're doing. And this is what the Word of God says. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of His might. Put on the full armor of God, that you may be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. Right? Behind this is sexual immorality. Behind this is slavery. Behind this is rape. Behind this is trespassing. Behind this is subordination. Behind this whole thing here, it's how it's crippling. It is what's crippling your life. It's like a serpent. This right here is the serpent that's destroying the lives of African men in America. This is the serpent that has come out to destroy the church. This is the serpent this is what Satan is using to destroy and to crush the American family, right? Wouldn't you say that the American family has been destroyed? Right? This is what Sodom and Gomorrah has done and is doing. I know that I'm not a favorite in the American continent. I know I'm not going to become the next Billy Graham. But neither did Jesus Christ, right? I mean, this is the same system here that did this, right? Were they not the Roman Empire? Were they not Sodom and Gomorrah? Was this not Rome? Right here? Right? Julius Caesar and the guards, the Roman guard, and who were they? Who were they during the Roman Empire time? When Jesus Christ, when this guy was alive? Wasn't it the same system under Rome that destroyed this man? Isn't it the same thing again? Wasn't it them who killed him and his apostles? Are we not doing the same thing here? Are we not in this generation doing the same thing? So back then, what came out of Christ, right? What came out of Christ, I'm not going to read the resolution, but what came out of Christ, the crucifixion, right, was this from the Apostle Paul that I'm reading here from the book of Ephesians, right? And Paul wrote this. Paul says this: put on the full armor of God that you may be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. So somehow or another, Paul, looking at, in his day, these people, he's calling them the schemes of the devil, right? Somehow Satan is involved in this. So Paul says, And this isn't the gay struggle, this is the Christian struggle, right? He says, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood. So this is not the struggle, right? So our struggle in the color of our skin is not the struggle. He says, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, right? Against the rulers, against the powers that you cannot see, right? Against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. He's talking about evil, demonic angels, right? That will enter the heart of rulers. If you go into the Old Testament book of Ezekiel, you will find in Ezekiel 28, right, a lamentation for the king of Tyre, right? It says here in verse 11 of chapter 28, again the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation over the king of Tyre, and say to him, Thus says the Lord of hosts, the Lord God, you had the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering, the ruby, the topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the lapis lazuli, the turquoise, and the emerald, and the gold. The workmanship of your settings and sockets was in you. On the day that you were created, they were prepared. You are the anointed cherub who covers, and I placed you there. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked in the midst of the stones of fire. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created until unrighteousness was found in you. By the abundance of your trade, you were internally filled with violence, and you sinned. Therefore I cast you as profane from the mountain of God, and I have destroyed you, O covering cherub. From the midst of the stones of fire your heart was lifted up. Because of your beauty you corrupted your wisdom. By reason of your splendor I cast you to the ground. I put you before kings, that they may see you. By the multitude of your iniquities and the unrighteousness of your trade you profaned your sanctuaries. Therefore I have brought fire from the midst of you. It has consumed you, and I have turned you to ashes on the earth in the eyes of all who see you. All who know you among the peoples are appalled at you. You have become terrified, and you will be no more. Now, is this just talking about the king of Tyre, which we're looking at on the outside? No, it's talking about Satan, who is on the inside of him. Satan, whom he calls a what? A covering cherub, who he says was perfect in beauty, right? Who had the seal of perfection, who was he says every precious stone was your covering. You were covered in stones, right? In beauty. But what happened? You were the anointed cherub who covers, right? But what was the problem? Your beauty corrupted your own heart. But the issue that I'm addressing here is a king, and inside the king is Satan himself, who was cast out of the garden of God. When you come to Ephesians 6, what does it say here? Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, right? But it's against what? It's against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness. So inside of the king of Tyre was the spiritual forces of wickedness. It was the devils, the demons. Remember in Acts, right? In Acts chapter 16, the Bible says this. The Bible says this in Acts 16. It says that, and it happened that as we were going to the place of prayer, a certain slave girl having a spirit of divination met us. And the woman started fortune telling. So what's happening here is that you have leaders that are filled and sealed with demons. Leaders leading the people to commit the sin of slavery for generations, hundreds of years. Leaders leading the people to hang and to kill and to murder Africans like popping popcorn. Leaders who are sealed like the king of Tyre with demonic forces and evil spirits. Leaders who are giving people permission to live this way and to marry because they have been taken captive by Satan to do his will in accordance to Timothy, right? 2 Timothy says this. And so when you come to Ephesians and you're looking at that, you're reading that, it's like, what is our struggle? Our struggle here, the struggle for power and this struggle, for me to just get my money back from a banker, For me to get a quarterback from a banker, for me to get my $10 or the right amount back. I mean, it's not even the fact that they want it. No, it's the struggle. It's the other side wanting to hit you, right? They just want to put their hands on you. So that's what's inside of those people, and that's why I'm warning you. Don't side with this government and this gay community and these police officers, because there's another side. And the other side is what Paul is addressing here. There's a demonic side. They may not be aware of it, but the church is aware of it, and the church is warning you. And that is who I am, by the grace of God, because I believe. Not because I'm a great orator, but because I believe. Because I believe, right? So the Bible says, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but it's against the rulers, the powers, the world forces of this darkness, spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore, church, take up the full armor of God, that you may be able to resist in the evil day. And having done everything to stand firm, therefore, having girded your loins with truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and having shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace, in addition to all, taking up the shield of faith, with which you will be able to extinguish all the flaming missiles of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. With all prayer and petition, pray at all times in the Spirit, and with this in view, be on the alert, with all perseverance and petition for all the saints. And pray on my behalf, that utterance may be given to me, right, in the opening of my mouth, to make known this boldness, the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that in proclaiming it I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. I've been in chains 5 times. I've gone to jail 5 times, right? I'm not in chains now, but it seems to me that that's where this is going again. If I leave this apartment complex without finding another apartment, right? If I'm pushed out again, right? Remember, they only gave me 6 months. They couldn't give me a year, or they wouldn't give me a year, depending on who is management and who management is under whose influence. And so, I'm taking this time this morning to talk to you because some of you are in this situation right now. Some of you are dealing with this empire right now. Some of you are dealing with the schemes of the devil right now. Some of you are dealing with forgetting that God has given us a spiritual armor. Can the spiritual armor fight the spiritual warfare, but is out against us in the physical world, which is out against us in the congregations that we go and we worship? Because remember, they come in and assimilate. They come in and fall under. And when they're under, when this is set up, they come under, right? And what you hear and what you see a man standing behind a podium this way, but what's behind it is this, right? When you go to the church on Sunday morning, it's this, right? They've got a Bible in their hands. It's somebody standing in front and behind the group, right? Break it down, right? Break it down, and when you break it down, right? Bam, bam, bam. And what's behind it? That's what Ephesians is talking about, right? That's what Paul is saying, is that we're dealing with spiritual demons that are hidden. Remember what I read in Acts 16, the woman who had what? A spirit of divination. Remember what I've been teaching in Mark chapter 3, Mark chapter 1, 2, and 3, right? And then we just finished 4, right? Jesus casting out demons and giving. And some people are looking at me and they say, well, how come you don't have the power to cast out demons? Do I need to? Do I need the power to cast out demons? Do I really need to come into your house and removing the demon out of your son and daughter? Why would you even want your son and daughter to have demons when you could just accept the gospel as it has been given to you, right? And some people will say, well, we don't believe that you're the real thing because you can't give us the Holy Spirit. Well, do you have faith? Do you believe? Do you have faith and do you believe? Maybe the issue is not me not having the gospel or me not having the power to give you the Holy Spirit. Maybe the issue is that you lack faith, and because you don't have faith faith like the faith of a mustard seed, because of that, God won't grant you the Holy Spirit. He won't give you the deliverance from this entire company here, right? He won't set you free from these people, the kingdom of darkness. This is not the kingdom of Christ. Christ did not set up a police department. Christ did not set up a U.S. government. Christ did not set up a gay community, an LGBT community. What Christ left behind was his church. And I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Right? So this is not the modern day church. Right? This is not the modern, this is Rome. And this is Sodom and Gomorrah. These are the sinners. These are the ones who stood with going all the way back to Scripture. These are the ones who stood with who? With Cain, right? Not with Abel. Anyway, I think I've said more than enough for you to understand my situation and for you to understand where it's at. Stay under the armor of God. You know, understand that God can give us spiritual power to withstand the devil. We can't do nothing about their guns, right? The same way that they couldn't do, and the church couldn't do anything about their cross, and they couldn't do anything about their spear, and they couldn't do anything about their. I mean, God could have destroyed them. I mean, you know, He did destroy the earth, right? He destroyed the world with water. He destroyed the earth with, you know, He could have stopped their heart from beating, but He's a merciful and gracious God, and that's why Jesus says, you know, they don't know what they're doing. I mean, after walking on water, you don't know who I am? After healing the sick, curing the blind, feeding thousands, you don't know me? Giving you my gospel, sending you my apostles, you still don't know me? You know, and I'm not claiming, you know, deity here. I'm not claiming to be anything special, but it's not what you see on the surface, right? The same thing here. It's not what you see on the outside, right? Like it says in Ephesians, it's what's on the inside. You know, greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world, right? 1 Corinthians 6 tells us that you have the Spirit of God. For that is what is in you, right? What's in you this morning? What's in you this morning? Is it the Lord? Right? These are the two governments that have been against each other since the beginning, right? These are the two governments that have been against you since the beginning, right? The Christ, the Son of the living God, who has been crucified, and them. These are the two governments that have been bucking head, right? These are the two. This is the bam, 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 right? These are the two governments, and it's on this stage, right? It's on every stage, everywhere. That's a division. And for what it's worth, I'm on this side, right? Using His word to reach out to you, right? So I'm taking situations like this. This is the stage right here, right? And I'm saying, this is my life today. This is what's going on. And this is how the devil is coming out. He can come out. This is how he's doing. On the surface, they look European, they look American, they look like presidents, they look like, but this is who they are. So you have to go all the way back to deal with it, with who they are today. I guess I've said more than enough, right? And I'm going to try to keep these videos to a minimum because it's repeated information, but it's also hopefully encouraging to those of you who are in worse situations. Some of you are in marital relationships with the devil, right? Some of you have children, you know, and some of you are old and you can't get out of the situation that you're in because you've married the whole thing. Others of you are just about to take that step. You have an armor, and God says have faith, right? That is what is missing out of America, is faith. And if you don't have faith to believe what He's saying here, right, this is who is going to crush you. This is the group, right? This is the group that's going to wrap itself around you like a serpent and right? If you're not careful. Because if they don't come out on you while you're young, they'll come out on you when you're old. And believe me, they will come out because they want that respect. You want to know what that respect is? And this is my last point. See, that's the problem of a preacher. We can't stop preaching. We stop talking about ourselves, and then we stop talking about our Lord. And before you know it, we're 2 hours later, we're preaching Jesus. It's like, weren't you here to talk about yourself and all your problems? Like, yeah, but, you know, the Lord comes out. And anyway, so the scripture says this. It says, Satan says this: all these things I will give you if you fall down and worship me. That's what the devil wants. Everything that you're going through, everything that you're suffering, all he wants is just a little bit of worship, just a little bit of praise, right? Just a little bit. You only need to give Satan a little bit of hail, right? Just a little bit. You don't have to give him the whole thing. All you have to do is just bow the knee to me. That's what Satan wants. And are we going to give it to him? No. Not even this much, right? Because you open the door this much for an ant to walk through, a whole colony will be in there. So, we don't want to give the devil nothing. Remember, he spilled his blood on Calvary for you and I, right? He did all of this to prevent Satan from getting just a little bit of glory. Not even a little bit. Not even this much. Satan gets nothing. Not even a prayer. Father, I just want to thank you for this morning and another opportunity to share your gospel. And also to remind the church, Lord God, of Satan's position. And to remind the people not to get involved in this situation with Gabriel and John MacArthur and Guy Franklin and all those people, Lord God, to just stay away from all of it. Have nothing to do with it. Don't, when they come to the establishment looking to put new people there, to switch the real staff for their staff, Father, I pray that you would protect the American continent, and you would protect your children, the church, and those out of Israel that are saved. Father, I pray that you would, men who have brought into the gay lifestyle and who are steeped in it, Father, have mercy and compassion on them, because those people have been turned over. And Satan loves it so when people are turned over. Father, I pray that you give me kind words to speak to the women of this nation, but they have to understand, Lord God, that I'm protecting my heart, I'm protecting my life, I'm protecting my family, my future, and that I can't just engage in immorality with just anyone, because you have a standard for the church to be sanctified and to abstain from sexual immorality. Father, I pray that you would lead me out of this situation, and that you would, all those that I have mentioned in this video would be forgiven, and that all those that have been mentioned in this video would be pardoned, but also, Lord God, that you would change their heart from sinning, and that you would lead them to your salvation. You would lead them back to yourself, so that, because that was initially the whole point of Christ dying on the cross, is for us to make disciples of all the nations, and to baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and to teach them to observe all that you have commanded. So, Father, I pray for all those that I've mentioned in this video, past, present, and maybe even future, people, Lord God, who don't even know that they're going to be involved, that, Lord, you would grant them and bless them with your salvation. You would give them the Spirit, and you would give them the armor to fight against the devil's scheme, who is a greater enemy than any government, than any clan, than any gay community will ever be. Because, Father, his stance seeking out glory from your creation began with Eve and Adam. And mind you, Lord, I put her first because of the fact that she was the first one to have sinned, and then Adam followed in her stead under the devil. And so, Father, I pray, Lord God, that you would be merciful to our women, our older women who cannot fight but who have to submit, our older men whose spirit and whose strength have been spent by the devil, Lord God, doing his will all the days of their lives. I pray that you be with our youth, Lord God, who don't know what I'm talking about right now, and who's not even aware of how Satan has crawled himself into their lives, not just through serpents, Lord God, but through individual people that are right there in their lives, Lord God. Pray for our women, for their protection, Lord, because they don't know which way he's coming. And if he went after Eve, he will go after every daughter of Eve. He will go after her in ways that she doesn't even know, Lord God, that he can, because the world is deceived and under his deception. Father, I pray that you would be with our leaders, as you have asked us to pray for them, that they would not fall prey to Satan's schemes and the evil that he has done against them as leaders. They don't even realize, Lord God, that they're being used by him, and some of them don't even realize that they're being coaxed by him to do his will. They may be thinking that they're doing your will, but in reality they're doing his will, being taken captive by him. Father, I pray for men who are in the police department, Lord God, that they would be mindful and remember that they carry death. Lord God, they carry a death sentence in their holster. That they would be very careful not to stray too far away from their training to protect and to serve, and that they would carry out and that they would look out for each other, Lord God. I know there's supposed to be a good side of the police department, but when I see the evil side emerging, then I begin to wonder whether or not Lucifer has made, and his hordes of demons have made his way into the lives and into the hearts of these people. And that's how I presented them, because of the many that have died as a result of gunshot wounds and that have been abused. And Lord, not all of them are evil, but for those that have been taken over by evil, Father, I pray for them, and that they will be released, so that the nation is not walking on pins and needles in fear of these people, Lord God. We may not fear the ones that are in the Congress and in the administration, but Lord, the ones that we fear are the ones who have the guns in the holsters and who will use it. Not that they can or cannot, they will. I mean, if they can use it against the innocent, they can. And I don't think that everything is reported that they've done. And so, Father, I pray for those people, both men and women, who have taken that position, and that they would restrain themselves, and that they would be careful, because you yourself have said in Scripture that we must all stand before the judgment seat of Christ. And whether or not they have the Holy Spirit to protect their souls, and Lord God, I pray that these men and women will be very careful in how they deal with your church, whether they're church that are housed or church that are roaming the streets of Portland and Seattle and Los Angeles. Leaders in the church, Lord God, whether they have high positions like John MacArthur or they have no positions like myself. Father, I pray for all of these things. And I pray for our gay community, that they will be released from their enslavement, and that you will set them free. And instead of turning them over, that you will turn them over to Christ and to his Spirit. And may my day continue, and may you continue to give me wisdom on how to deal with this situation openly before the people and before your church. This I pray in Jesus' name, amen. So now it's taken up another hour and a half of yours in the house instead of outside. I probably won't be teaching again for a couple of weeks, giving you some time to review. I don't know if you could see this if you've seen any of these videos that I preached on the Gospel of Mark. I know that right now I am struggling through this. I'm struggling through this commentary that I've been trying to finish here, and I don't think. I mean, right now this machine is on a stack of books that I'm supposed to return tomorrow, and trying to deal with Labor Ready and the work that I do there and the situation that I'm in. And of course, none of my work is established, right? I don't have any I don't have any references or even people that I could put in any of my books, to back me up. And so my books are not like these, Let's grab one of these here. You see the books with see these people here, and how they that's what I was talking about. I don't have any. My books don't have these people. People who read my books and then say, "Oh yeah, go ahead and buy Kevin's books." And I don't even think the company that I'm using right now is makes see how it has a flap and it has a cover. That's how, when I first started writing, this is how I wanted the books. But I wasn't able to I went to a company that I thought might have been able to give me this deal, but because of lack of because of who I was at the time several years ago, I guess I went to a company that I was able to accommodate me, to get my foot through the door. I'm sure they can produce books like this, but they have not been able to give me the flap yet, and that's the level that I wanted on, and I don't have anybody backing me up because of the situation. So, I did hear of some things that are going on in the church right now that I'm not going to address this morning, but church, we need to keep each other in prayer. And if you see me outside acting unbecomingly, yelling, cursing, screaming, it's because of this situation here. It's usually this is what I'm dealing with. When you see me out of character and I'm going nuts, it's because of this situation here. If you see me walking into places that I ought not to walk, it's this situation here. If you hear me saying things that I ought not to be saying as a minister, it's this situation here, and I'm dealing with it. And so don't ever think that I've walked away from the faith and just turned to the devil. No, this is the situation. You have a good day.